Did you know that in Shanghai, people are renting pets by the hour instead of having kids? And businesses test restaurants before even opening them. Today, I'm showing you what an ordinary day living in China with my bicultural family actually looks like. And trust me, what happens in a mall here is unlike anything you've ever seen. Saturday in Shanghai. My wife obviously didn't go to work. But after a tough week with my daughter home for vacation, we dedicated the weekend to just being together. No big plans, just everyday life. In the morning, we practiced languages with this book and an interactive pen. It's not really about the book itself, it's these stickers, you stick them on, and when the pen touches them, it plays an audio recording. In this case, we alternate between languages, Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin, or Putonghua as they call it here, which are the ones we speak at home. She's picking up English on her own. Almost every cartoon and character she watches is in that language, so we don't worry much about that side of things. It's funny, because you'd think raising a kid with 3 or 4 languages at once would be chaos. But in practice, kids have an absorption capacity that we adults already forgot we once had. She just switches languages depending on who she's talking to, without thinking twice about it. And what about you? Are your kids or you yourselves learning or practicing a language at home right now? Let me know which one down in the comments. Hi, I'm Chilli, rookie dad, freelance designer, living in Shanghai for more than 15 years. On this channel, I document the everyday life of my bicultural family, Colombian-Chinese here in China. No perfect itineraries, just real life, with its good stuff and its weird stuff, like today. After a while at home, it's now around 11:30, almost noon, and we get ready to go have lunch. As always, we go by shared bikes. It's our main way of getting around here in Shanghai, the cheapest and most of the time the most efficient. We bought a special seat to carry our daughter up front. We got it on Taobao, which is like the Amazon of China, and it costs barely $2 or $3. It's cheap and it's also safe. As you can see, every street here has a separate lane for cars and another one exclusively for bikes. It's not just a painted line on the ground. A lot of the time, there's an actual physical separation with planters or bollards so you can pedal along calmly without feeling like a car is about to run you over at any moment. Does something like that exist where you live? Dedicated bike lanes or city-wide shared bikes? I imagine it varies a lot depending on where you're watching from. About 10 minutes later, we arrive at this mall called Kristal Galleria, located right behind Jing'an Temple in the district where we live. What always surprises me about this place is this massive screen on the facade. I work with video and I've also done displays for restaurants. The resolution on this screen is insane. It looks printed, not projected. Like most malls here, this one has several basement levels, and that's exactly where the coolest, most refreshing spot is to escape the heat, the food court. They are giving out tastings of bubble tea here, with tapioca pearls. In Colombia, we call that same root yuca. This particular brand is from southern Canton, where my wife is from. And like almost all the new tea brands here, they usually open first as pop-up stores inside malls before getting a permanent location. It's an interesting business model. Instead of committing right away to a permanent location and a long-term lease, they test the product in different malls for a few weeks, see how people respond, and from there decide where it's actually worth setting up for good. Have you tried bubble tea? Do you like those pearls, or do you prefer your tea plain? We go down one more level, and that's where the actual food court is. At this hour, midday, it's always packed. Usually, when we come here, we eat at this Yunnan food restaurant. The first two characters, Yun and Nan, literally mean cloud, and south, the clouds of the south. Yunnan is a province in the southwest of China, right next to countries like Cambodia. And its food is a fascinating mix of Thai, Cambodian, and Chinese. We went there a couple of years ago, before my daughter was born. We used to travel a lot more back then. Now, for financial reasons, we barely can. But it's one of those places where you always remember the food. I remember we made it to Kunming, the capital, a big city, one that doesn't even get classified as Tier 1 in China, with a lower cost of living, but a really pleasant place to live. This country is so big, it basically has food for every taste. In other videos, I've shown you dishes from Xinjiang, which is all the way on the other side, in the northwest. Every province feels like its own country when it comes to its cuisine. Here at the restaurant, deals usually show up on the Dianping reservation app. We ordered one that comes with these rice noodles with beef. And you can add these extras for free. Garlic, hot chilies, different sauces. It's almost like the concept of a hot pot. You can also ask for more of the noodles at no extra cost once you finish them. We also ordered these breaded pork cutlets on the side, which are really good. And my daughter is obsessed with this dessert. It's a kind of sweet tofu with a sugary sauce.
Wait, what?
But what always reminds me of this region is that they eat roses here. Those red bits you see floating on top are dried rose petals, and they taste really good when you get the chance to try them. Have you ever tried Yunnan food or something similar? It's one of those cuisines that, honestly, very few people outside China know about. On the way out, on the ground floor of the mall, like in most malls in China, there's always a space dedicated to temporary shops, the famous pop-up stores. This time, there were some dolls I'd never seen before. They're called Sylvanian families. They're collectible toys, mostly for girls, and the moment we walked in, my daughter already wanted absolutely every single one in there. Something else that's becoming more and more common here in China is this new kind of business, renting out dogs and cats by the hour. As you can see on this sign, 1 hour with a cat costs 79 yuan, about 10 or 11 US dollars an hour. They also have weekend deals and packages with more hours or multiple days. And like I've mentioned in other videos, people here increasingly prefer having pets over having kids. to the point that in malls, instead of strollers for babies, what you can now rent are strollers for dogs. It's honestly a pretty solid business model if you think about it. You don't have to worry about vaccines, about feeding, about walking it every single day during the week. You just show up on the weekend, pay by the hour, get your dose of animal companionship, and leave. For families with young kids like ours, it's tempting sometimes too. My daughter got really excited seeing the cats in there. Right next to the dog strollers is this Miniso land. Miniso is a Japanese brand, but this particular store is entirely licensed intellectual property. Disney, Pixar, Hello Kitty. It's a toy store where obviously my daughter got super excited walking in, and since it's right next to the mall entrance, within minutes she already wanted to take absolutely everything home.
Toy Story.
She's not wrong. It's alien.
Yeah.
先看一看，这么多。
They had this doll here that looks a lot like a version of Labubu, the Chinese brand that was so trendy last year and still is this year. It's a good example of how well these new brands handle marketing.
我要 everything， 我要。
还有这个呢。
Labubu belongs to a Chinese company that handles the entire brand strategy, from the design all the way to pushing it through international influencers, which tends to be how these brands end up reaching the West.
Quiérelo mucho.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but a new collectible character comes out every year.
再看一看，还有别的 Hello Kitty。
In recent years, these Chinese intellectual property brands often lead the way ahead of the rest of the world on this front. What stands out to me the most, working in design and branding myself, is the speed at which they manage to create that urge to collect by hit. It's not just the doll, it's the surprise box. It's not knowing which figure you're going to get. It's the possibility that it could be a rare edition. That psychological game mechanic is calculated down to the last detail, and it works on kids just as much as it does on adults. Have you heard of Labubu or any of these collectible dolls? Let me know if it went viral in your country too. We leave Miniso, obviously with my daughter crying the entire way because she couldn't take anything home. And we head back on our bikes. On the way, when we reach this corner, I always remember this particular hotel. It was designed by a Chinese-American architect named I.M. Pei, one of the most important architects of modern Chinese architecture. Right now you can't go inside, but I'd already been in there once before, and the architecture and interior design are stunning. The hotel itself is called Pei Mansion, and it's also located near Jing'an Temple. And with the sight of this hotel, we wrap up the day. In the end, it wasn't an extraordinary day. It was just another Saturday. Languages in the morning, biking, Yunnan food for lunch, a couple of shops, one of my daughter's meltdowns, and back home to take our nap. But I think those are exactly the kind of days worth documenting. Not because anything spectacular happens, but because they're the ones that actually make up a life. That's it from us. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and if you want to follow this Chino Rolo on his everyday adventures, join the community. See you in the next video. Bye bye!